Hey everybody, thought I'd do a quick little video today about some inquiries I've had over the last few months. Kind of asked about, my opinion about a couple things, so I thought I'd throw that out there today. So I've had several people ask me about like trapping organizations, like state, federal, local trapping organizations, and whether or not I belong to those and what I think of those and do I participate in those. So I thought, since I have some free time now that the season is over, I would chat about that for a bit. So to start off, number one, am I a member of any trapping organizations? And the answer is yes. I'm a member of the NTA and I'm a member of my state trapping organization, the Missouri Trappers Association. Why do I do that? Because I think that it's important to be members of those things, to try to pull trappers together, to try to fund those organizations that are trying to protect our rights, that are trying to do good things for trapping, because ultimately I want trapping to continue long after I'm gone. It's really a lost art, and I think it's important to fund those things. With that, number two, we'll just go down this line here. So number two, am I involved in any of those organizations? And I'm assuming when they say involved, I don't really know what that necessarily means, but I am a member. I have been to some state meetings and things of that, but am I involved in any further than that? And the answer is no. And before anybody even asked, do I have any interest in doing that? And the answer is currently no. And then why would that be? Even though I support both the national and state trapping organizations, I clearly think that there's room for improvement. A couple, 3 years ago, I actually looked into getting more involved in my state organization. And I'll tell you really how that came about was I hadn't been to a meeting, and by a meeting, I don't mean like a local, like district meeting. I'd never go to those, but by a state meeting. And I went to one, and I hadn't been to one in probably 6 or 7 years at least. Really since my friend Steve was involved in the Missouri Trappers Association, and he got really, really frustrated and eventually just left. He's still a lifetime member, but he just didn't want to be involved in like as a representative or an officer or whatever it is that you want to call it. And so I decided I hadn't been really since Steve left. I should probably at least think about going. So I went, and I was really shocked. At the time, I was probably 49-ish, maybe 50, something like that. So that was 3 years ago. And so yeah, it's about right, 49-ish. And I was shocked. There was at least 3, maybe 4 people in the room that were younger than me, and that's it. Everybody else in that room was old, significantly older than me. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, no offense to everybody else in this room, but many of these people are not going to be around in 10 years. And I'm thinking, what are we going to do? It was just, you talk about an eye-opening experience. That was it. So I made some inquiries about getting a little bit more involved and started talking to some people, and ultimately made the decision that wasn't probably in my overall best interest. And you're probably sitting there thinking, well, Dane, if you want to help improve things, well, why don't you get more involved? And the answer to that is I made some inquiries. I threw some ideas out. I talked to a bunch of people, and nobody was interested in anything that I had to say. So, for example, I told or made an inquiry that I didn't know on it, or I did not feel like on a state organization we were probably doing what we needed to do. Having been a member of the Missouri Trappers Association for years and years and years, and this is not just a knock on the Missouri Association. I think the national organization does the same stuff and is the same way, right? And so some of my complaints were, I have no idea what we're doing. I have no idea what this organization is doing. We send out a quarterly like little magazine or whatever it is, or a little pamphlet, booklet, whatever, about what's going on. Okay. And that, other than that, I don't really have any idea what's going on. And we've been doing that for, I don't even know how many, as long as I've been alive, probably. And is that really accomplishing much for us? How many people actually read that thing? And I don't know, it seems like it's so 1960 to me. And then when you look at what else we're doing, okay, we're doing a few little classes with some students in different parts of the state, whatever. And we have a couple fish fries, and we have a fur auction, and we support Miss Somebody, a beauty pageant, and they wear like some fur. Okay. How is that helping us get new members? And are we getting new members? And the answer is no, we're not. And how are we getting into, a different generation than what we're all used to? So I pointed out that, we have, for example, YouTube, where you're probably watching this right now. And if you look at like the YouTube channels of like these trapping organizations, at least the ones in my state and whatever, they're horrible. I think there's like 10 followers or whatever, and they post like 2 videos in the last 5 years. That ain't cutting it. And here's a perfect example. So here in Missouri, we just extended the trapping season. And so all of February, we're going to be able to trap. And the main reason that they did that was to really help the turkey population. The turkey population, not only in Missouri, but in many, many states, is really taking a beating because of predators, right? So why do we not have a video that's out here talking to wildlife biologists, talking to conservation department, talking about how we're extending the season because there's not any trappers and all these predators are out here, and because of that, they're decimating the wild turkey population. We could extend that, and we could talk about the fox population. We could talk about the quail population. We could talk about lots of different things. The antis are really good at this stuff, and they're cranking out videos all the time about this kind of stuff. Most of it's lies and propaganda, but the point is they're kicking our ass at this stuff, and we don't do anything. We're not out here on social media hardly, very little. We're not doing any of these things to try to cultivate a new generation. Why are we not doing that? We should be totally on top of that. We should be cranking out stuff all the time on social media and getting to these kids, talking about the benefits of trapping and talking about how we're helping the cute, cuddly little foxes and the turkeys and these little quail that are almost non-existent in many areas anymore, and all this kind of stuff, and really getting into people and explaining why we're doing this, why we are trapping, and how it's a great wildlife thing. And, the antis and the lefties always are into science when it comes to getting a shot and everything else. Well, why are they not into science when it comes to wildlife biology? Because we don't push it. We don't do shit. And then they're always out here trying to create new laws and trying to stop us from trapping. So I got really frustrated with that because we're not doing anything, right? And then secondly, and this I think is what really did it, I brought up the idea of, it seems to me like we have trappers, and obviously we need to have trappers in the running the organization to some degree, but why do we not have some like business people running it? And I don't mean some guy that's a trapper who's selling some baits and lures. I mean some actual real business people. Why do we not have actual legitimate business people sitting on our board? And I'll give you a perfect example. So my significant other, Daniela, was a corporate lawyer in Manhattan at one of the big 5 law firms. She's got a degree in economics. She's got a master's in economics. She's got an MBA. She's got a law degree. She did billion-dollar deals. She right now helps businesses and builds businesses all over North America. You stick someone like that on the board. That's what she does, is build businesses. We should be treating our association like a business, not like some nonprofit where we know that we're going to get so much money every year because so many people are going to donate to us. Eventually, we're going to run out of that and we're going to go broke. Put some people like that on there. Daniela didn't know a dang thing about trapping until I met her. But over the years, she got educated and understands why we do that. You can educate business people and explain to them why we are doing what we're doing, and put business people on there along with the trapping people, right? And then you can come up with fresh, brand new ideas, and you run this stuff like a business. Communication is better. You're modernizing things. You're doing all these things because that's what it's going to take for us to grow. Nobody wanted to hear that because everybody in most of these organizations, it's like government. You get in there, you have this little bit of power, and then you want to stay in that little bit of power, and everybody kind of rotates positions with their friends and their cousin and their wife or their significant other or their in-law or someone like this, and the power just kind of rotates around. And you never get any new fresh ideas or anything new. So those are some of the things that I saw, and I'm really busy. I have multiple businesses. At the time, I was still working for the government, and I just did not want to be banging my head against that. So I talked to Steve about it, and he laughed at me and said, "Why in the hell do you think I left?" He said, "Nobody wants any fresh ideas. Nobody wants to grow. They just want to be the same because that's what they know. That's where they feel comfortable." So I'm still a member. I probably always will be a member, but am I happy with what the organization is doing? No. And when I say the organization, I'm talking about not only my state, but the National Association as well. Do I think the National Association is very similar to my state? Yeah, I do. I think they're a little bit better in certain areas. And I've heard this on I'm not the only one that feels this way. I've heard this on Clint Locklear. I've heard him talking about it. I've heard Jeff Dunlap talking about this. I've heard all these other people in the trapping industry talking about this. And I think they feel the very same way that I do, in that we should be running this like a business. We should be out here doing things, not doing the same things that we've been doing for the last 40 or 50 years. What's going to happen is we're eventually going to lose all of our trapping rights because the antis are winning. They're winning. They're putting out videos. They're getting out there and talking to legislators, and they're doing all these things. And I know the national group is doing that to some degree, and that they're talking to a lobbyist and whatever. But they're not doing it to the degree that we're doing it. We don't have the voice that these antis seem to have, and we're going to lose if we don't educate the next generation. And to me, we have a perfect opportunity in some of these states. We have turkey populations down. We have quail populations down. And I know that not all that is trapping. I know it's habitat. I know it's other things. But trapping plays a part. And in my state, in Missouri, when you have the conservation department that's extending the trapping season for a month, for a fact, they're doing that because of the turkey population. I know that. Everybody knows that. We should be all over that. I have not heard a peep one about anybody talking about that. Has anybody else heard anything about that? Have you heard the NTA talking about it? Have you heard the Missouri Trappers Association talking about it? No. What the hell are we waiting on? I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. So some of you probably won't like what I said, but that's kind of how I feel. That's my opinion. Maybe you have different opinions. Put them in the comments and we'll chat about it. And who knows, maybe together we can make a movement. But that's why I decided it just was not worth my time. I'm busy with lots of other things, and I just did not want to continually bang my head against the wall. And that's what it would have been. I would have been, the lone person or one of a very few small group of people out there banging my head against the clique, so to speak. And that's why I just decided I'm going to spend my time doing other things that are more productive. And I guess I'm like a lot of people, I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that we don't lose our trapping rights over the next 10 years or whatever it's going to be. So let me know how you feel. I do actually have a date for our trapping get together, and I'm going to do another video in a couple days because I got one thing left to do, but I've got an opening, I've got a date. It's going to be in May. It's going to be toward the end of May. So be thinking about that, and I'm going to do another video, and I'm going to have all of the information in it, the date. I'm going to have local hotels. I'm going to have all the information in there, and I'm going to do that in the next couple days. So keep looking out for that, and hopefully we're going to have a really cool event. And in the meantime, be careful out there, be safe. If you're out like me and putting in food plots and trying to do spring stuff in between the snow, be safe out there, and we'll talk soon.